Juliet Magdalene and I met under really exceptional circumstances, and it turns out we have a shared intention for ourselves and for the planet. To put it briefly, we want to throw the world's biggest dance party. That's one way of saying it, and you're all invited. So you'll know what I'm talking about within the first few minutes of the episode. But I really hope you enjoy this addition to the Magical Beast podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
So I think we should tell people we're doing this because we met at Arcadia, and the way we met was really cool. So we were both builders, and we were there. So we got to attend Aubrey Marcus's live podcast recordings. And I think it was Saturday, the third day. There was miscommunication and a no-show with the podcast guest, so it turned into a Q&A. And I just shared this story when I recorded with my friend MJ yesterday, but people can hear it again. With the encouragement of the friends that I made, during the Q&A session, like I raised my hand and shared an intention that came through during a pretty deep medicine ceremony for me, like 8 or 9 months back. And long story short, that intention was to have everyone on the planet dance at the same time. And it was really cool. Like Aubrey liked it, and he riffed on it. He riffed on it a little bit, and it felt really good to share that in that room. And afterwards, you came up to me and you were like, "Hey, I've had the same intention for a long time." And it was really cool to hear somebody else say that. And so, yeah, we became friends. And then I realized afterwards that like my name is in your name. I thought that was pretty cool.
What do you mean? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, you see it, right?
Oh my God, I saw it right away. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was like later when I was looking at your contact in my phone, I was like, whoa, her last name's Magdalene. Or that's how you say it, right?
Middle name. Yeah.
Oh, your middle name's? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I dropped off my last a couple of years back off of my branding and just went middle name.
Okay, that's really cool. Yeah, my middle name is Alistair.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, thanks.
Dalen Alistair. Nice.
Yeah. So how did that become your thing? Everyone on the planet dancing.
First of all, like when you spoke that into existence in the room with all the builders, I was like just a few feet away from you, just lighting the fuck up because I was like, oh my gosh, you had the dream. And I just got confirmation in my own heart of everything I've been feeling for a very long time. So it was so exciting to be in that room. And I know that like, these are the spaces that are important, especially, my intention of coming to Arcadia is I love the blend and intentionality behind music festival and conscious conversations, leading edge of people who really genuinely want to see better systems, healthier dynamics within our world. And we all need each other to figure out how the hell to make it happen. So I knew it was important. I've been a festival goer for the past, so I'm going to be 34 next month. I think when I was like 26, I went to my first music festival that I actually wanted to like dance at. And okay, so I have a whole kind of story with my relationship with dancing. But anyway, speaking it into existence, seeing you be so honest and just authentic and true to be like, hey, this is what came into my dream. And I think you had this visual of like you were kind of in a bird's eye view of the globe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And can you speak a little bit into a little more of what you were seeing in that dream, just to bring it back into the aliveness of this conversation?
Yeah, so it was funny, like getting it out when I was talking to Aubrey because I was a bit nervous, but he helped me get the words out. And the way I described it, I'll back up one step. I was in medicine. I won't talk about the medicine here, but I was like falling. It was like I was going down, and I was like, okay, we're going down into the underworld, shadow, like whatever, that's fine. I've been there. Let's go. And then suddenly I was in outer space looking at planet Earth. And Aubrey joked and he was like, well, yeah, man, like when you go on that sort of journey, what do you expect? I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I didn't know that was normal. And so what I saw was the earth, and then I saw light. Like there was an interaction happening with the lights, but the interaction was somatic and visual. And then it sort of got interpreted into words, but I knew that they were alive. And then were you there for the opening talk that Matthias gave?
Yeah.
Where he talked about the Northern Lights being the Round Table of Camelot. The Northern Lights, I was like, oh, that's a really good, at least comparison to what I saw, because it was like a circular blue, green, purple light. And then I felt in my body and saw like this oscillation, this vibration while I was looking at the earth. And what I felt in my body is like, yeah, everyone dancing at the same time would be an immensely powerful ritual.
Yeah. It's so cool to speak this into existence because it seems so wild and so out there. And like, how the hell would we get humanity to all come together to move at the same time for unity, for harmony, for peace, to see one another in our humanity? And yet for me, like, I just have this deep belief that it's absolutely possible. I don't know how, but it's possible. And then hearing you speak it into existence, and then Aubrey being like, yeah, man, like that's kind of like, that's the goal almost. Like, how can we bring people together? And it was just like, that is my personal vision being seen and made manifest into the form. And it's interesting because me then coming up to you probably is like a next little step of a mirror of like, hey, this is coming into form. And from that perspective, it's like the more we speak about these kind of outrageous desires, the more I'm getting chills, the more we can make it possible, because we are the ones we are waiting for. We are the ones who are these like calibration portals, and we hold the energy and the creative, possibility to act on these desires, to create structure, to actually bring things to life. That is how everything around us is made, by an idea, right? By a seed of an intention or a flash of inspiration. And then step by step, however long it takes, it comes into form. So I'm very excited because I feel like we are on our way, and I love this conversation just so we can chat about it. And, yeah. And I'm not sure if I answered your question. What was your question for me?
Oh, I don't even know. It's all good. No, I know there was a reason I didn't share it for like eight or 9 months. I did share it with one friend who I knew would understand what I experienced. And he was actually a friend that I spoke to a lot and got a lot from in the weeks leading up to Arcadia that I realize now like actually helps me prepare. We do jujitsu together, and
cool.
Yeah, he just made me aware of a lot of practices that really helped me prepare for that experience. And by the time Arcadia came around, I was like, yeah, it's time. I can share this. But 8 or 9 months ago, I knew in my body, like I felt in my body that it was something that was not only possible, but it needed to happen. And my feeling of it being something that needed to happen, it wasn't like I need to force this to happen. It's just like, this is something that is going to happen, and I know it's possible. And 8 or 9 months ago, I think I just needed time to integrate it, because I was like, yeah, I sound wildly delusional, but I've kind of moved beyond that now.
Yay.
I felt how real it was at the time.
Yeah.
And then it took, other parts of me time to catch up to actually like speak it into existence. How did that, oh, right. That was my question. How did that become a part of your life? Like, where did that download happen for you, or that vision?
For me, I have a deep connection to like my knowing. I have this like profound sense of knowing within myself that at a young age, I didn't quite know how to make sense out of. So my journey has been one of learning how to radically trust myself despite what anyone or anyone else thinks I should do or think or believe or anything like this. So I didn't quite have like a dream as you did or a vision, but I know it's going to happen. I know in every cell of my being that is like the future. It is a future moment that we are learning how to embody and how to come together. And I really had to go on my own journey to gain evidence that it actually is possible. So when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I just had this profound sense of like, wow, I look out into the world. I was in a family that had a lot of dysfunctional dynamics. And I just felt like, wow, so much of this shit is backwards. It felt so backwards. And like, why are so many communities like without resources? Why aren't we helping them? Our attention on materialism and consumerism. I just felt like this is backwards, but I had no clue how to actually begin to be in service towards the world I wanted to see. And part of that is because I didn't have the tools or skills of how to process my own trauma. So in like my teenage years, I really felt this like weight on my shoulders, this invisible weight of like, I need to do something. I felt an immense responsibility to be of service in the world. And yet my life and my relationships were like falling through the cracks. Not all of them, but yeah, really in my like romantic relationships, I had, my father passed away when I was 12 and I had a very challenging relationship with him. He was an alcoholic, fun guy, like so many great qualities, but I was so young that the dynamics were just hard. And I didn't know when I was 12 years old, not only did he pass, it was my grandfather passed, then my grandmother, then my dad passed, then his mom passed, all in the same year. At the same time, my mom had skin cancer and she was losing a ton of weight. And a family member had kind of turned on us. And like, basically there was a lot of trauma financially because there wasn't a will created and basically a year of fucking chaos.
Yeah.
At peak age when I'm coming into my quote unquote womanhood or, coming into understanding my body and all of this and having no outlet to process. Mm-hmm. So I didn't. So it was like going into my teenage years, loving to dance. I had this like love of dancing, but then, alcohol starts coming in and, boys and relationships and parties. And to really feel free, like I could even move and dance, I need the like 5 tequila shots first, which is what so many of us have. It's just like, how do we get more socially comfortable when we have a lot of shit going on? It's an outlet to feel a little bit freer, to be a little less restrictive on how we're communicating. There's a part of us that wants a sense of freedom. And yet when we don't have healthy tools to support ourselves, we'll go, what's easy? What's everyone else doing? And I know not everyone has that experience where they party in their teens, but maybe in your college years or maybe even later. Everyone has a different timeline. If you even drink at all. Sometimes it's drugs. Sometimes it's, food. And I had this incessant dynamic with food as well. I was trying to gain pleasure out of things in my life instead and getting validation for everything in my life outside of myself. And it was like this gaping hole that could never be really filled and full and satisfied. So it wasn't until I was 19 where I really had my rock bottom. I was in my second year of college, sitting in my dorm room. And for the first time in my life, I was feeling so much pain, all the shit that I hadn't thought about. I was so good at running away from thinking about the painful stuff. I was so good at going to the next relationship, of just going to the party, of whatever. And for the first time in my life, I just sat in all the pain that I resisted feeling. And in that moment, I was thinking about ending my life versus, I'll just leave it there because I didn't know I had any other options. Because it felt so insanely intense, so viscerally uncomfortable. And I felt like no one, maybe people would care. Like I was silently suffering behind the scenes and never really communicated that because vulnerability was my kryptonite. We have all these ideas of what it means to be vulnerable, keep your emotions to yourself. Don't be too much. All of these kind of aspects of life that I thought I just had to appear like I was good. And I did a really good job at smiling, but really I had like a lot of pain behind the scenes. And I know a lot of us are very good at that. So long story short, in that moment though, for the first time in my life, instead of like going in that impulse of running away or shutting everything I was feeling down, I actually surrendered into it. I surrendered into it. And in that moment, another new thought came in of like, there must be a better way. And that was this, in the depth of my pain, this light of hope. And I followed that and I heard it. And then it was like this whisper, there's gotta be. And then it was like, get off your couch. And I got off my couch, go outside. This other voice that was leading me step by step. And then I go outside and I probably look like a crazy person on my campus because I feel like I was looking at the world for the first time in a new way. I was seeing the trees. I was seeing the sky. I was seeing the grass. I was feeling the wind on my face. And I was really present to the moment versus believing all the ideas and narratives that were running through my mind. And I kid you not, I had never heard of the words the present moment before. Well, let me tell you what did happen. Later that week, I'm like in a bookstore, and this is how spirit works. The book, The Power of Now, like falls off of the bookshelf. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Literally falls off the bookshelf?
Literally falls off.
So, okay, not to interrupt you, but I was just thinking as you described this, I was like, oh, you had like a Eckhart Tolle moment. Like,
yeah, I did.
Yeah, because of the story that he shares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not how it happens for everyone, but I was like, oh yeah, this is super, that's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not funny. It's really intense, but, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, it's fun to look back at, to just see how spirit weaves, spirit, God, universal intelligence, divine, like whatever words you want to use it. Something greater than me there was a guidance there. And yeah, so I opened up this book and I'm like, what? There's a present moment? And it just literally blew my mind in a really good way. And so that was the beginning of recognizing and starting to become the observer of my thoughts and not, attaching myself and latching onto them. And that was the start of my spiritual awakening, so to speak, which was however many years ago now. And I learned energy. I became a Reiki master. I learned about energy healing, but I also at the same time, learned about all these different modalities. And I started to listen to all these different speakers, and they were all kind of saying the same thing, but just in their own unique way. Mm-hmm. And that was a beautiful, experience I personally had. 'Cause I was like, oh, I'm having my own experience of that. So I get to trust my own guidance. I get to trust my own like leadership in this, because I know it and I experience it. And now it's kind of my journey of, well, first, before I even started coaching, it was, let me be with this. Let me learn about this energy. Let me learn about this way of being. And, so I did start coaching a couple of years later. I felt like, wow, if I can help myself, I overcame a lot of fear. I had a lot of fear of like public speaking, using my voice, leading in certain ways, and yet a big call to do so. So I had to exercise and stretch and be the change I wanted to see. Because I realized you can only blame and wait for things to happen so much until you realize, wait, I have power. I have the power inside me. And let me try even deeper this guidance and do it in a way that really feels nurturing and really feels supportive. But here's one thing that I felt was missing as I started to then put money towards business development and all these things and personal development in general. But one thing I realized was missing is no one was really teaching you how to viscerally meet yourself in a moment, in a really challenging emotion, in a trigger, in a pattern that keeps happening, and how to have the power to choose something different, to respond to that moment versus be in your reaction. Mm-hmm. And if, like, raise your hand if you have ever, felt like this, like you can't control that part of you. Like it just happens and then you're like, shit.
I'm raising my hand, by the way. I don't know if you were asking but
I was asking anyone watching, but yeah, for raising your hand, because it's such a universal human experience we have. And then what? And then we feel guilty. Oh, we weren't who we wanted to be. We didn't say it in the way we wanted to be. And then there's a lot of shame and we bury ourselves under guilt and all this stuff. And it's this vicious cycle that no one really sees or talks about.
Well, which is a defense mechanism. The self-criticism is just, are you familiar? I talk about this all the time, but are you familiar with internal family systems?
I am familiar. Yes.
It has been, as someone, like everyone does, like I've been to talk therapy, and that sort of played its role at different stages of my life, but I've found IFS to be the most effective modality in the field of psychology. And just like the inner critic, that dynamic that you just described is sort of the central story of what IFS addresses. Like, for a lot of people, it's like binge eating or whatever, and that's a part that is expressing itself. And then the inner critic emerges to criticize, but the inner critic is just a child who's trying to avoid criticism from parents or teachers or whoever. And that's where the dynamic that actually drains the nervous system, drains our like life energy, and causes depression, anxiety, and perpetuates itself. So I just want to make sure I keep on making people aware of that as a resource. It's kind of used in the context of the Gupta program. I think, did I tell you about that when we met?
Mm-mm.
It's just, it's for people with chronic illnesses, and there are randomized controlled trials and different studies have been done demonstrating its effectiveness for like long COVID and other things. And IFS, like sort of self-administered IFS, is actually a part of that. So connecting to these parts and just connecting to the stories, the experiences that they're actually still living in. And when they can feel safe, there's a sort of release of energy, and things can start to circulate and not rather than and be reintegrated rather than experiencing the same stories over and over again. I just wanted to make that connection to what you were saying, because I really feel it.
So powerful. And it's interesting because I haven't like studied internal family systems, but when I heard about it, I was like, yeah, I'm like excited to explore more because this is the work I was intuitively being guided to. And you're right. It's learning, oh, wow, I'm so disconnected from so many parts within myself. I have this separateness within myself. And thus there is a war within me that is constantly in battle. There are these different voices in my head. And that was from very early, I realized, okay, all the change I want to see and if I can point so many times at like my partner or my parents to make the change, all right? One finger pointing that way, three, not four, because this one's pointing up, three pointing back at you. You recognize, wow, what part of me is actually coming up for me to spend some time with? What part is actually rising up within me that maybe I put on the back burner, that maybe I've never developed a relationship before? Mm-hmm. And some language I was using back when I first started my coaching practice is like, you feel like something's missing. There's something that feels like it's missing. And my journey has really been the reclamation of coming into that understanding and that unity, the unifying all parts within me with compassion, with grace.
Yeah.
So to just kind of end and wrap up the story and how dance really came in more powerfully is, so no one was teaching how to viscerally though meet yourself in a moment. They're like, just change your thoughts and, it'll go away. And I was like, that shit ain't happening for me. Like I'm still triggered.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I was in an argument with my partner at the time. And right before this, I actually started to take some pole dancing lessons and coming into like somatic movement and like just understanding how to move my body. And really, I was in this whole journey of reclaiming my sensuality and my sexual expression. So I was in an argument with my ex-partner and I was like, all right, instead of word vomiting all over him, I am going to go in the other room and just like be with myself. So I closed the door. I went on my mat and my phone was nearby. Like the lights were out and I was just crying. And I just happened to like put on some like low chill music. And I was just there like sobbing. And then without even realizing it, my body began to move very gently, very slowly. I was just breathing and moving through it. And a couple songs later, my body was just moving in ways that my mind wasn't telling my body to. It was just my body moving. The emotions and energy was moving through me. And at the end of a couple songs, I actually felt clear. I felt like relaxed. I understood what it was that I was trying to say to my partner. I had words to communicate what I was actually feeling. And basically we came together into solution and we were fine. And I was like, holy shit. I didn't have language to what was happening, but I was regulating my nervous system. I was somatically meeting myself, trusting my body's intelligence to move that energy through me. So longer story short, I went back to the mat and met myself in my deep sadness, in my grief, in my rage, in my jealousy, in my anger, in my love, in my passion, in my joy, in my bliss. And I met all these different parts within me. And specifically with the challenging emotions, because that was really when I like felt, okay, I just need to be in my own space. I need to move this through me. I would go from, let's say, like anger and feeling just anger and letting myself express it in my own space. No one knew I was doing this for years. And the energy would shift on its own when I gave myself that space into a more generative energy. I was actually able to come to like a neutral state and know what I wanted to fight for versus what I was fighting against within myself. And so that was like 6 years ago. And then COVID came, and I was like, I had really embodied and practiced this so much for myself behind the scenes that I was ready to teach someone. And my first client was an 8-year-old girl. An 8-year-old girl. Yeah, to someone I babysat when I began my coaching journey, and it was kind of like my side gig. And the family moved to another city. I was still in touch with her mom, and I was like, hey, like, I'd love to offer this 6-week series. And I basically put what I call, so what I would just explained is now what I call the embodied effect. And I guided her through these emotions, and like what came through her mouth without me even like telling her what to say was like, I feel like I met a different part of myself. When she was in challenging situations with her friends, she knew how to like honor what she was feeling and not like put the blame on them. And also like she was way more compassionate with herself. And it was so powerful what she was expressing that she was feeling and experiencing inside her own body. And then it was incredible. Yeah. And I was like, all right, now it's time to bring this to the adults. And so I've been teaching this online for the past couple of years and now in person as well. Beautiful experiences. Like I just am so passionate about it. And now my next vision. So, right. Like I'd like to speak into the steps of desire, the seeds of desire that are along the journey. Like I just knew humanity needed to come together in one way. I've always been connected to dancing. I had to go through my own process and trusting of myself for each next step to unfold. Then the embodied effect came in. Then I needed the courage to actually share it with others. Now I teach it online. Now I, teach it in person. And my next step, which is why I was so excited to just hear you call out the vision, is I'm like, the next step is to go on tour with the embodied effect and create events where we can come together in this work. Because I don't think it's, for me, the vision of humanity dancing together, it's so much more than just dancing.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
Well, we can talk into that, but like, well, maybe it would be great to just speak into like, what happens when people come together and dance? What has been your experience?
Well, so that was a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing all of that. So when people come together to dance, I think I should back up and say that for me, because you said when you were 26, you started going to music festivals. And this was really the first one. I went to a lot of concerts when I was younger, but this was the first multiple day festival I'd ever been to, Arcadia. And so this was kind of a step on my journey. And there were a handful of intentions that were set that I feel like I met gloriously. But one of them was to just kind of be in that space and to dance and to just be okay with it. And, for me, it was a really powerful moment when Matthias at the beginning of the festival set the intention, as you said, like it's more than just dancing, although it is also dancing. He set the intention to let the dances be a reprogramming when he was talking about the Philosopher's Stone and, the North Pole and all that. He said so much. I can't remember how. But, to let the dances be a reprogramming. And when he said that, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm in it. This is day one. We're here for 4 days. Let's go. And so for me, like it was so incredible to meet you afterwards and have you come up and be like, I had the same vision. And like, I remember just going blank for a second when you said that and just looking at you. And I was like, oh shit, that's so cool. But for me, like it very much the entire experience of being in the festival in a combined space with all of the intention that was there, with the broader intention of the people that organized it that I could feel, like the sort of container that was there, despite it being in the spiritual center of the world, Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
I kind of lost my train of thought there, but the combined intention and all the energy that was present, it very much was a synchronicity machine.
Yeah.
Like you and me meeting in that moment was just one of many, and like massively synchronistic moments. I really liked the way the back and forth that I had with Aubrey went, because when he articulated, like, as he was thinking through it, and you could tell he was feeling through it, he's like, oh yeah, there could be a day where all of the musicians come out, like everyone comes out in the streets to play, and then everyone's just welcome to dance. But he was talking about how there's some countries on the planet where people aren't allowed to dance or aren't allowed to gather. And you actually asked me a question, and I have no idea what it was now. Sorry, but
you're on a roll. It was like, what happens when people dance and come together?
Right. So So what I like about that intention, I feel like Arcadia was a microcosm of it, that being a synchronicity machine. I've experienced so much of just self and what I have put out there recently, like in terms of my intention and things that I've been opening myself up to. It's like I experienced all of it all at once, and it's been continuing to happen. And a bunch of other people also had that experience. And so that's what happens when people dance together intentionally. And so that's why it would be such a powerful, magical ritual to even have like 70% of the planet, involved all at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, and like when people are dancing, like no one is watching, and give themselves full permission to be in that energy, which again, some people are natural and they're like, let me just do it. Other people have a lot of insecurities and vulnerabilities to work through to even be able to do that without alcohol, without any substances. And I get it. I understand both paths. So there often is like a journey that comes to that moment of like, I am giving myself permission to take up space, to be seen in my light, to be seen in my joy, to be seen in really that like inner child playfulness, playful innocence, that magic that we had when we were little, when we weren't told yet that we were too much and to stop dancing and to behave better and to blah, blah, blah. To take that radical permission to like enliven that spirit within you, that is so beautiful, because we come back to like the innocence and the naturalness that we are born with. We are born to move our bodies. We are born, like we are given these vehicles to express. Look at, I like talk with my hands so much. Like we are expressive beings. And yet over time, we've been told to like get in line and get more serious. And it's like we've dimmed that playful part of us down. So I really see this opportunity for us to reignite and give everyone permission to be in that playful, joyful spirit, because that's when we crack the seriousness. That's when we crack the tension. When someone says a joke in a really tense moment, how that like, what energy that allows the energy to dismantle a little bit, breathe a little bit more. And the thing is, we have to, well, what's beautiful is we don't have to do anything, but what's beautiful is that we get to be mirrors for one another. It's like when I give myself permission to take up space and be free and to flow true is my company, to flow true in the way that feel and authentic for you, then I know that I'm giving permission, or at least being a mirror for what's possible to those around me. And I have that all the time. What I used to look at when I didn't do the inner work yet. I used to be stuck by my judgments. I used to be insecure. I used to wish I could move or say or speak or look a certain way. And I judged that other person and like dimmed down my light. I totally reversed that in my life and realized, wow, that's something to celebrate. Let me celebrate that which I see in another person, because if I celebrate them, I know it's possible and available for me too. I am so close to that part of myself being expressed more freely. And it's such a dramatic shift in how we relate to one another.
It is, yeah. And I appreciate meeting someone as expressive as yourself and as so many of the beautiful people that I met at Arcadia. Like, it's wild, the relationships that are coming into my life now. And I'll let you know when it's published, but I talked about this a little bit with my friend Matt on one of the earlier podcasts. He has a pretty deep understanding of astrology. And I say deep just because it's just an energy. He clarifies that it's an energy of language. I think a lot of times there's sort of a superficial understanding of astrology. And it's just been so interesting that he said that this is very much a time. I don't remember why. I don't know enough. This is very much a time where things like possibly for years, the people have been trying to do are finally kind of coming to fruition. Things are coming together. And to hear him say that a few months ago in a conversation that we recorded, and then to actually be experiencing it, it's been pretty wild. But on that note, like things taking years to come to fruition, and then you feeling stuck when you were trying to express yourself when you were younger, I want to just step back and like acknowledge how many parallels there are in our stories. So for me, I won't go into crazy detail, but like also very challenging situation leading up to and during puberty. And then, which is a really crucial time. And then also like alcohol and cannabis and other things from a pretty young age, from the time I was like 14. And I remember there are two different ways to experience these things. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but in terms of trauma, like they can either become consolidated and then feel more and more real, or they can be released. And I remember being like 16 and that being sort of the peak of me feeling like not expressive at all, feeling very limited in my nervous system, not even fully aware of it at the time, but feeling a lot of tension, feeling constriction in my throat, like not being able to say what I needed to say. And that's when I started writing a lot of poetry and just writing a lot in general at that time, because I couldn't just say words. And part of the process of moving through that in hindsight was me joining choir my junior year of high school. So like the next year, and then show choir, which involved a little bit of dancing, which was way out of my comfort zone. And then, yeah, continuing with choir. And for me, I had some moments like the one you described when you were 19, but I really didn't learn. I don't want to generalize, but I think with the whole surrendering thing, I think that's a skill set in my experience that comes more naturally to women, if I'm being honest. Like I've just met a lot of people where they just describe how they intuitively did that. And it took me like getting really sick and then finding the Gupta program to finally get to a place where I can just surrender and accept and then actually feel gratitude. And that's that's been the last year and a half. And that's how things have started to open up for me. And, yeah. So when you describe what's happening, when you do your dance practice and you guide the people through it and you described what you did with the 8-year-old, it's like, oh yeah, I can feel that happening. I've gone through similar practices, but I can see how, dance is becoming increasingly important. Like I'm doing it a little bit every day.
That's
Yeah.
a heck of a lot more than, what most are. Yet knowing that is possible. Well, first, I just want to like really honor your journey, because it's kind of wild, and we think maybe it should have gone different ways, but it was so uniquely purposeful to how you're here to bring your medicine, the work you're here to share. So I just really want to honor your journey fully, fully, fully. And how cool that you are, you have this, is it the Magical Beast podcast? I didn't even see the title.
Yeah, that's what I landed on.
So cool. I love that. I love it. It's like there will be, the more you honor your path and truth, it's like those who are here to learn from you, whether it's for a day or for a year or for a decade, you honoring your path and continuing to just be honest and truthful with that, like people will resonate with that frequency. And it's that truth that you allow yourself to speak into existence. And it is so interesting to see all the parallels within all of our paths of like, wow, it's actually almost like the body is low key, like the intelligence of spirit and our own humanity is like doing the work, but we have to get on board consciously that it's
Yeah. So, okay, just because you mentioned the name of the podcast, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. So in talking to more and more people recently, there's been like a concentrate, like it's almost like a singularity, just in terms of the acceleration of having these experiences and meeting these people. And did you meet Shaft when you were at Arcadia?
Mm-mm.
Okay, he was cool. I wound up running into him in the airport afterwards and talking to him and looking at his work, like tantric work. And he's hopefully going to be on soon as well. And I've made a ton of other friends, and just hearing their stories, hearing the way what you went through and what you navigated things, what I realize is like, yeah, Aubrey Marcus talks about empire versus kingdom. And for me, kingdom, one of the key elements of that, to me, those are two different ways of experiencing the world. Mm. And kingdom, one of the core ingredients is just the recognition that magic is real. And when I hear your story and Shaft and my friend MJ and just others, I realize that we're in an era where that sort of magic doesn't really come from sunshine and rainbows. Like it comes from the alchemization of just really fucked up shit, or like having really dysregulated nervous systems. And then through that process of healing, which is it's like such a precarious path, because it's like it doesn't always work out, but when it does, people discover that they have superpowers. And I came across a quote in the book recently that just is talking about alchemy and magic, and he says very plainly at one point, like, man is a magical beast. And that's just one of the things that has sort of been relegated to the shadow, but not anymore. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that, and also share one more collective intention that kind of came through me yesterday that I think you'll really like. Was, okay, we are in an age where more and more people are healing. Like I even, not just the shit, like the stuff that had to be composted and transmuted, but also the way you went about doing that was like, there were a lot of parallels. And it's like, okay, yeah, people, like you said, it's spirit is guiding the process. But it's like, can we get to a point where we don't all have to be like traumatized in order to have that perspective and to discover those powers? Like, there's going to be a little bit of trauma just because people come into this world, and that is a traumatic event. But like, can we get to a point where we're raising children in such a way where they are just taught these things and not through like abuse or whatever it might be? They just are taught what humans are from the beginning. And so that's another like secondary intention with having everyone dance, is that will radically change the energetic experience that we have on, you know, as energetic beings in this particular solar system.
Yes.
Hmm.
I'm so you said that because I can speak from my angle of what my soul's mission and what I've really recognized is I am personally here and very guided. You know, we're talking about all these different parts within us and how do we create this harmony back into this state of like wholeness within ourselves. And what I see for that is really sacred union within ourselves. But why is that important? Exactly what you mentioned. It's sacred union between partners coming together. Sacred union in knowing that that relationships in and of itself are the most spiritual groundwork you will ever get in your life. They are the most spiritual material to help us grow and evolve. And so from coming from a dysfunctional family unit and desiring as a young girl to have the exact opposite, but not having the tools or resources to understand how to really be the woman, the human that can allow for this harmonious relationship to occur in future family. I had to embody the work for myself. And over the past years, I have not only created that sacred union and continue to create that sacred union within myself, but I've been helping couples and, you know, women and men on the same journey, because I do see in the future us creating like more harmonious environments for our kids, that they don't have to come into such dysfunctional dynamics. Because also underneath all of that, I have a deep belief we all have such tremendous gifts and we are the solutions to a lot of the problems in our world. If we had the freedom within our bodies and somatic opening to follow and really trust our intuitions and almost create a container in this world for those synchronistic events to happen more often than not, we would see this rise in consciousness and this rise in how we interact with one another. So when I was in 2014, I woke up, my dream or like the dream that I had, I woke up out of a dream with the words conscious woman rising flashing in my mind. And I like went to my phone and I was like, does anyone have this domain or Instagram handle? And no one did. And so I messaged my VA and I was like, get conscious woman rising, but not only that, conscious man rising, conscious leaders rising, conscious humans rising. Because I knew it wasn't just about the woman in my journey, but I knew it was going to be a global effort and a journey for what was to come. So all's to say, I'm with you, man. And I think all understanding that we can want the whole world to change, but it ain't gonna happen if we're not willing to be the change we wish to see on the way.
For sure. And, you know, there are no accidents. I'm completely aligned with you on this. And I'm really, really grateful we met. And it's incredible to see you become that woman who has the resources and has the skill set to do what little Juliet wanted. So that's beautiful. Good job.
She's like freaking out. She's like, thank you. Thanks for seeing me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Isn't it always nice when you realize like you connect to that inner 12-year-old or whatever? And it's like, yeah, we're doing this, man. Of course we're doing this. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, and it's so meaningful. And a huge other part of this is like, we are the leaders. Like it's not about forcing or coercing anyone to do anything, but it's about becoming the role model that we wish we had. The role model that, you know, we know is here. And that's where like the embodied effect, it's the effect of your own movement. It's the effect of how you lead yourself, how you treat yourself, how you understand that you are worthy to take up space. And just that energy, it's an energetic force that allows other people to say, oh, hey, she or he's doing it. Maybe I can try too. And maybe I could, by seeing it, it makes it more real. And then you go on an exploration with that part of yourself, and then that evolves. And then it's a beautiful web. It's a ripple effect that happens. So every moment counts. And like this podcast, I love how you dropped into like where the name came from. I love that. I get it. I see you in that title and in that the significance behind it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever think about this, but I'm enough of a nerd. Like I've read enough fantasy books that when I think about the ritual of having everyone on the planet dance together, I do keep in mind, like in the back of my head, the law of unintended consequences. And it's really not a fear thing. It's just something that I contemplate, like, because that would be an energetically intense experience and it will break a lot of shit. And I don't know what that means, but I know it's true. And so it's like you said earlier, the cracks, like cracking open the really just the stuck energy in the body. It's like, okay, well, we don't know what that looks like at scale. And I think ultimately it will be empowering and for humanity to realize that we're capable of doing something like that, especially given all the things that need to happen in order for it to happen. And then to ultimately have it culminate in a celebration of life and a ritualistic releasing of stuck energy in people's bodies, transmutation of collective shadow, but that doesn't, it sounds like I'm getting hypothetical now, but that doesn't necessarily happen all at once. Like from my own healing journey, like even today, there were days recently in the last 5 days where I felt 100%, 95%. It was great. Today I'm okay, but like it's more of a challenge. Like I feel the overstimulation, like so I have to remember that it's a process for my nervous system to heal and to release these things. And that's okay. I'm really only a year and a half into like consciously being on that healing path. But speaking of synchronicity, when I was talking about this with my friend Matt at lunch a few weeks ago, have you read or watched the Wheel of Time series?
Mm-mm.
It's a fantastic fantasy series. I'm a huge nerd. The book series is like, it's 14 books and they're all like, so there's a lot there. But, when I described to Matt the ceremony of having everyone on the planet dance at the same time, he like kind of spaced out for a second. He's just like, yeah, world breaking ceremony. And I like paused for a second. And then I said, world breaking ceremony. He's like, is that what I said? I was like, yeah, that's what you said. He's like, oh, that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say this. But spoiler alert, like in the Wheel of Time, the dragon reborn, that's the name of one of the books. And that's like a central character in the story. He's been incarnated in the Wheel of Time before. The wheel is like weaving people's lives together. Everything is connected. And there's a prophecy saying that he is going to break the world. And so that was just that was just an interesting synchronicity for me when I told him about everyone dancing. He's like, oh yeah, world breaking ceremony. And he's never read the books. But I was like, fuck, like, what am I getting myself into?
So powerful. It's like break the cycle. Break the cycle. I believe we are the cycle breakers. And those how good is that moment? How good is that moment? And when you really listen and pay attention, like Spirit's talking to you all the time.
For sure.
Different moments, messages, signs, things. So trusting those moments is so important. And the interesting thing is you're going to keep getting people to tell you something so differently. And there's going to be moments where you're tested and challenged. And we're constantly, it's almost like constantly coming back to, all right, trusting myself, mastering self-trust, and knowing that as you do this, and you're knowing that doing this for yourself is also, it's not just about you. It is we all get to be in this space. We all get to reclaim this mastery of self-trust within ourselves, because wow, when we work together, when we believe in this divine intelligence weaving its magic through all of us, wow, when we can awaken back to that reality, it does feel like magic, but it's the magic that's been here, but we just have like unconsciously dimmed the dial down on, or the light down on. So the more synchronicities and the more I'm very, I see a podcast in my future, because I've been having conversations with people over the past 10 years, on YouTube and things like here, but I having these conscious conversations of this kind of shift in reality and how we can see each other, how we can meet each other is just, I think it's where it's at. And it's in also the uncomfortable moments. And actually something I'd like to speak to from what you shared is you've been on your journey, and today feeling, a bit of that dysregulation. So allowing yourself to just nurture and be, honor where you're at. A big piece in what I teach in the Embodied Effect is the biggest challenge is to create a playlist that everyone will drive with. Like some people.
Yeah.
Let me give a little more context to this. So, okay, no, let me finish my thought and then I'll give that context. I will actually have people be like, hey, if your body is like, let's say we're expressing our anger and your body's like, no, and it doesn't want to be standing and it maybe feels something completely different. It's teach, practice staying where you're at. Be on the floor in the position that feels good while everyone else is up and doing whatever they're doing. That is actually groundwork to practice trusting yourself, not complying to what everyone else is doing or thinking you should do that. So that's a huge part of the process, is that you really get to honor your own path and your own pace as to what feels in alignment. And it's totally against kind of what we're taught and embedded in our go society. And you should do this, you should do that.
You should be prepared comparing yourself based on just what you're seeing other people doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it feels counterintuitive, but that's the work. And I just, that's so important for me to bring into these experiences, because I never was into like EDM until like I was 26 and I went to that festival. It's funny. So my first actual festival, it was called Boom. And I was like, I don't know, 21, maybe younger. It was in Portugal and it was a trance festival.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I was on a trip with my girlfriend and I went to Boom and I didn't step one foot into the dance floor because I was like, I don't like this music. And nor was I.
Just to be clear, you said like TRANCE, right? Trance festival?
Yeah. TR.
Yeah. I heard trans, and I was like, well, those are two very different things. I want to clarify. So yeah.
Between trance and what was the other one?
Trans.
Oh yeah. Trans.
Which is also great. I was like, I want to clarify which one we're talking about here.
Yeah. And at this festival, they had this whole like spiritual section, and it was kind of like Arcadia, which is why I was so excited about Arcadia, because it flashed me back to that first one where that was the first time I met and saw Charles Eisenstein speak. And when I heard, and this was over 10 years ago, this was probably like 13, 14, 15, maybe years ago. And I just felt resonance when he spoke, and I was like, oh, and that was like kind of in my awakening process. So anyway, I got into my spiritual path. I learned about all these different energy modalities, and I got really serious. I got really serious. Yeah. And this was in college, and I was like, drinking's bad, partying's bad. And, you know, like, I am going to just do what I'm going to eat better and healthier things, you know, and just like be
Yeah,
on
we
that.
all go through a version of that.
Yeah. And it's important to call it out because
Yeah.
we get just like so serious. So got into a wonderful partnership that was also super challenging. And anyway, went to a festival. And this is when I started to like do the pole dancing. My partner was a great dancer. So I was learning how to actually receive and surrender to his leadership. Go to this festival. And I hear this like dubstep in the distance. And my body just starts to like move in ways that it had never moved before. This was like nonsense music to me. And I just let my body rip. And it was so like just in flow with the music. And that was the moment where I realized, trust my body and give myself permission to let my body speak and not let my mind talk me out of it. And that was really beginning my reclamation of so much music. And then there's actually this one music festival, if you've never heard of it, called Electric Forest.
I haven't heard of it.
Okay, in Michigan. It's a beautiful festival. There's a huge forest and it's all like decorated and lit up and it's very synchronistic, very magical. I went like 6 years in a row, got like 30 plus people who now come. It's super fun.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. You should totally go. Yeah. So that's just all to say, trust your process no matter what. And, you know, going out and if you're in dancing spaces and your body doesn't feel like it, that's okay. That's okay. Trust your process. Like that is just, there's a deeper like honoring of where your body's at and everyone is in such a different place. So I don't know, for me, the embodied effect and even seeing these tours pop up, there's almost like this journey that I'm excited to, for my part of my work, to bring like whoever wants to join along on to like practice this work, practice in being in these very sober with yourself, but also, you know, connecting with that sacred union space of, do I get to feel myself in a new way? Do I get to follow my intuition in ways that I haven't before? And I think there is a bit of this practicing until one day it's just going to drop and we're going to do it. And humanity's going to be dancing here. And I know that so many people are doing their own work to bring that to life too.
Yeah, that's a beautiful intention. The way you just said it though, like how can I follow my intuition in a way that I haven't before? That's amazing. I really I'm happy, like I look forward to dancing with you and I'm happy to share the way that you go about this with people because I can tell just your acknowledgement, like, yeah, if you're not able to dance, just sit on the floor in a position that's comfortable. Just that recognition. It's like, okay, yeah, she gets it. Like Juliet, she gets it. And, I had moments like that at Arcadia. I danced a lot. I had moments of just not giving a fuck. Like when Dirt Wire played the first time and I kind of walked in after they started and I walked in, I was like, what even is this? And it was incredible. And then, were you in the room when they had the drum circle with Dirt Wire?
I was.
Oh my God. That might have been my favorite moment at the whole festival.
That's
Because
cool.
it was so spontaneous and there was just like this vortex of energy. But then I had moments where I was like, I kind of want to be dancing right now, but I'm going to lie down on the pillows in the wall for the like half an hour. And I just did that. And, yeah, just awareness of the state that my nervous system's in. Like that's it. That's everything.
It's everything. Because we fight so much against that. We have so much conditioning to fight against that. And I know it's so counterintuitive for so many of us, and this idea to slow down when everyone else is picking up or going faster. But like when we can reframe and really approach ourselves in this new way, it's like you take away the pressure. There is a there's a deeper trust in yourself and in divine timing. And so I just trust that we will one day be all globally dancing for harmony and the unity of humanity. But first, I've had to really trust my own timing with everything too. And I had needed to, whatever I used to think of that would deem as successful, I've had to reframe what that really means to me and what is really meaningful in my life. And so it's actually a beautiful journey we're being invited to, each and every one of us, no matter how hard or tough or challenging your childhood was, or what has been going on until this moment of you watching this podcast. There's an invitation to reframe how we approach ourselves, no matter what. It's always here. It's always available. And I'm all about hashtag tiny moments. Tiny moments. What it's about. It's not about all these big changes to then become this person that you think you should become, and that'll happen in a week or a month or even a year. It is, how do we reframe our relationship to the tiny moments? Start to hear that whisper that may be guiding you somewhere else. First, the voice of the should and the go faster and push harder. So it's a beautiful journey if we let it be.
It is. And on that note, I know we have to wrap up pretty soon. I just want to share how I've experienced exactly what you just described. Like, well, also I'll say that what you just described is why things like caffeine, like coffee, is such a popular drug. And that was actually part of my journey, was like drinking 4 cups of coffee a day to sustain, the whatever it was. But when I actually had that vision, in medicine, I was still at the time working for a very, very large tech company. And my plan had been, and I'd been on medical leave for a while, and my plan had been to move to Austin to work in person full time. And at the time, the way I filtered that message coming through was like, okay, I'm going to move there, and I'm going to move up in the company, and I'm going to use that influence to bring forth this dream of dancing. And so there were a lot of stories of me telling myself oh, it has to happen this way. But that story of it has to happen this way actually created tension in my nervous system. Anytime there's a have to involved, that's, I challenge that at this point, or just feel into that, because we don't have to do anything. And, yeah, long story short, I'm on a radically different timeline now. When it was time for me to end the medical leave and go back to work and make the move to Austin and work full time, I was like, no, my body's not ready. And yeah, does it create more of a financial struggle? It does, but I also trust myself. And if I don't have my health, I don't have anything. So I'm going to stay on the path and, stay on the intuitive path, not the fear-based, I need to go get a corporate full-time job path. So yeah, just wanted to share that because it's been so recent.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your journey and your truth, and how inspiring for others to feel into that, and others going through their own healing journey. And hopefully through our conversation, people can recognize you're not alone. You're not alone. That's the big thing. It's I think up until the past couple of years, there's been a lot of silently suffering behind closed doors, behind our own technology of our bodies, just in our own spaces. But more and more through conversations like this and sharing our stories and allowing vulnerability to be a new way that we relate to one another. There's nothing we need to hide. There's nothing we need to try and perform or try to be. It's no, this is just this is my reality. This is what's gone on for me. It has been imperfect as hell. imperfect, not perfect.
Of course.
And actually, when we can begin to look at our lives and the challenges and see what lessons, the gold that was actually sitting in the challenges, and what those really hard moments were, the bridge that it was inviting us into of who we could become, is actually what I think is really a positive way to look at those moments, and what can transform and transpire, and how we can actually connect more deeply and dance with one another.
Yeah.
Shake off all the stuff that we've been doing alone behind closed doors, and how can we come together in this work? And I think we're on a really bright path with humanity if we keep it up.
Let's keep it up. We fucking got this.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Well, you're awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. And it was so cool the way that we met. And I'm certain, well, if you're going to be going around the US at some point, I'll definitely see you when you're doing that. And I will definitely see you at festivals in the future. I think I'm going to make Arcadia a regular thing. And then maybe this other one that you mentioned in Michigan. That sounds like a lot of fun too.
Yeah, we'll connect with me. I'll give you more info.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I'm just throwing this out there randomly. I also thought, with the intention that we share them with what Arcadia is, I'm like, oh, what would it take to have like Arcadia Las Vegas, but then have like Arcadia Berlin or whatever it is going on at the same time? Like, I could see that being part of the trajectory. Just a thought that came up like a week ago. I thought I'd throw that out there.
We probably would need to have more resources on deck to make it happen at the same time, but with more of us coming together and desiring that, I honor him deeply for starting the process and for following his intuition and bringing this intention together. I completely see where he's coming from. And this is where we can now be like, yeah, man, I'm feeling the same thing. Yes, sis. I'm with you. And we can just continue to bring our resources together and collaborate. So I for sure see us weaving together in the future. And
yeah,
I trust the process. I trust the process.
Me too. You're awesome.
You're awesome.
Thanks. I don't know if we're connected on social media, but do you want to share your social stuff and where people can find you?
Sure. I am at FlowTrue on Instagram, FlowTrue. I've also got a couple other Instagrams floating around. The Embodied Effect. I also have Conscious Man Rising, and Conscious Woman Rising will be coming back. She had her debut a few years ago. I switched Instagram handles, so I got a few weaving together, but my main one is FlowTrue. That's where they all unite. And then I'm also on Facebook at Juliet Magdalene. So
perfect. And can people reach out to you for coaching and for is it Embodied Effect?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I do one-on-one coaching, group programs. So I have 2024 coming out on deck. I've got master classes that if you feel the pull, I'd love to have you. And the Embodied Effect. Yeah, I'm creating a way that we can meet once a month in this work. So I am in the mix to how to best create like a membership or something like this, because people are doing it. They're like, I want more. So yeah. So just follow me at FlowTrue and all the information will be there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you just want to say?
I'm so excited about these conversations, and this is the magic. My 2 words for this year in particular, like, what's your word for the year? And I've been doing this for a while, and what came through for me was divinity and magic. And it has been nothing more but that. So from someone who could be at a time in her life where she thought leaving the planet was the best idea to now being so freaking excited for life and seeing so much evidence for how it is working, how us embodying and speaking about different subjects and the human journey and how do we bridge the gap between our humanity and our divinity and find sacred union within ourselves. Like, it is freaking happening. So I just hope to share that excitement and the sincere hope that I feel. And thank you, Dalen, for this conversation, for inviting me on. And I have this sense within me. I always say it. I've been doing this for a while, but like, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning.
It is. And I just felt a really strong urge to say this when you were talking. And sometimes people get freaked out, but this has been my whole life. But I love you. And I look forward to seeing how this friendship unfolds. And it's just the beginning. Yeah, this is fucking cool.
I love you, man. It's reflected back truly. And we're in it together.
Magic. All right. Thanks for doing this. I'm going to stop. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.